Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. Guys, I'm welcoming you out for a wonderful show that's for you and about you. Those who work so hard for your money, you're now ready for your money to start working harder for you today. You want that freedom. You want that cash flow, right? You want that prosperity now, not 30 or 40 years from now, not someday if you're lucky, but today, guaranteed. That's real, tangible results. That is why you're here. That's the kind of ripple effect I'm here to create. And I'm excited because as ripplers for you guys, you guys are actually ripplers too. As you create something a bit different for yourself and something more, you can create a ripple effect in your own lives. And you can bless more people, bless your families, and make a bigger difference. Guys, thank you for allowing me to create that ripple effect through you and the thousands of you that have been following and sharing and binging. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Hey, as a reminder, check out our website, moneyripples.com. Not only is there great blogs and podcasts on there, but you can also go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, the Money Ripples with Chris Miles channel. Go there. You can find other episodes there available for you too. So check it out. So guys, I want to talk about something that is, I think, timely with the elections coming up and everything else. I feel like we got to talk about something that's so important. And the problem is we get in these, get this left and right debates going on, right? About what government should be. And nobody really talks about the principles behind it. I mean, there are people out there, right? But it's so rare you see it. Most of the time, you just make people look like they're crazies on both sides of the spectrum. And the truth is, yeah, there is a lot of craziness on both sides of the spectrum, whether you're left or right, and there's no secret here that I'm definitely more favor a more conservative, more libertarian type of approach, right? When it comes to government and how it works, because again, I see how governments and money and prosperity as a people work together. And definitely on the other side, it doesn't work. Like socialism, communism does destroy. And that's what I want to talk about today is really like, why do governments destroy financial prosperity, right? Not that they have to. In fact, this country was founded on principles and even on certain strategies to ensure we have the greatest chance of financial prosperity as a country. And we proved that. I mean, we created revolutions with the kind of model that we were able to create as such a baby of a country. I mean, with really a bunch of people that were broke, prosperous, they were broke paupers in some ways. But I'll tell you, the founding fathers, when they created this country, they were incredible. Because unlike us, I mean, one, they fact checked by reading books. And they read books from the sources. They had to know multiple languages. Understand that even guys like Benjamin Franklin, he was traveling to France, not because he liked French women. Okay, he did too. But the guy spoke French, right? They spoke Latin-based languages, lots of them. And they read these books from these things. They wanted to know the greatest societies, what kept them going. If you guys ever study this stuff, it's incredible to know how intelligent these guys were and how with Google, we are some of the dumbest idiots in the world right now, in history. We're some of the biggest morons because we have access to information, but we don't look for truth. We're looking for information. But again, you get so much dumb information out there that it doesn't matter. But these guys, they founded this country based on truths. The whole reason we're a republic versus a democracy is for a very specific purpose. Hey, smaller states, you might be living in a smaller state right now. You better thank the founding fathers for creating a republic. Because if it were a democracy, no one would care about you, little Mr. Rhode Island or little Miss Massachusetts. No one cares about you in the north, much of you in the Northeast. No one cares about some of you guys that are in the West, like Idaho and Wyoming, Montana. We don't care about you. You don't have any population. Your democracy doesn't count. But because we have a republic, it does, right? These things are all done intentionally on fully intentional so that we can have more prosperity. And they studied the best of the what am I looking for? Civilizations. They studied Rome, the rise and the fall. What was the cause of the fall, but also the rise of Rome? They looked at even ancient Israel, the days of Moses and Joshua. They looked at that kind of government and that kind of system to see what made it prosper. They were looking at the Anglo-Saxons back in like around the 6th century AD, out there, like in Europe. They were looking at all these societies of the ones that were really the strongest and the most prosperous, and they want to know what they had in common. And our whole country is based on that. So guys, I challenge you, study what the founding fathers done and the Constitution and everything else. But this is what also they were not intending. They never intended governments to come in with their own little programs to help you become prosperous, right? They had three main roles. You've heard this over and over: the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you go back, right to life is, of course, the fact that people can't threaten death on you. Now that doesn't mean you can break the law. This is not anarchy, like some people think that those on the right will think, right? It's like, you got to have anarchy, no government. No, you don't want no government. You want minimal government, but not no government. You still need a government to protect rights. For example, for life, that you protect your life, that you protect your liberty, right? That you're actually free from slavery. And yes, we had slavery. That was a big debate, even when the founding fathers were doing it. And they had to kind of table the idea for a whole nother generation, right? So right to life, liberty, and then the pursuit of happiness. That doesn't just mean you frolic along in the forest and be like, yeah, I'm free, I'm happy. No, that was actually the pursuit of property. If you look at the actual meaning of that, if you look at what some of the founding fathers said, that was the right to property. Because back then they didn't have right to property. They had to ask for permission from England to give it to them. And that's the only way they can get actual land rights. Of course, the land wasn't theirs anyways, but they had to ask for permission from a king to give them rights. They wanted a free, prosperous country where through your own prosperity, you could also have your own rights. So anyways, so I'm coming back to these government programs, right? How do they destroy financial prosperity? Let me give you a very easy example. And I know you guys have heard examples like these, not just this one alone. You've heard probably plenty of these. Example one here. Well, this is my big example. I remember my father, many of you guys don't know, but he worked as an auto parts salesman, for really 30 plus years, 30, 40 years. He did that with a few different companies. He didn't get to work for the 40 years like he was hoping for, like his generation was told to do. He was the forefront of the baby boomers, almost the prime lifers at that time. So he worked for those companies and he did auto parts sales and stuff. And he would go to a lot of dealerships or some mechanic shops. And when he was doing his routes, there was one guy that was a mechanic. Well, he eventually left that place and started work for the government. This was a friend of his that he also hung out with outside of work. Well, that friend went to work for a government agency as a mechanic, auto mechanic. The first day on the job, this guy gets there, he starts knocking out. He starts repairing all these vehicles, like police vehicles and everything else, to start knocking them out just like you would with a normal mechanic shop, right? By the way, think about it. When you go to a mechanic shop, you want it done well, you want it done fast, you want it done at a reasonable price, right? Well, he got called into his boss's office at the end of that first day. And the boss said, "Hey, do you like your job? Yeah. Do you want to keep it? Yeah. Then slow down. You need to stop doing what you're doing." He's like, "I'm just doing my job. I'm fixing these vehicles." Stop it. He's like, "If you start doing your job too fast, we don't get money from the budget. And if we don't get money from the budget, I guarantee I'm not laying myself off. So guess who gets laid off? It'll be you. So stop it." So this guy had to undo all of his patterns of doing quick, awesome work. He had to start slowing down and start taking his time, taking lots of extra breaks, doing things at a very slow pace, so that their department will continue to get funding because they're based on these budget systems, right? This is basically government as a whole. Anything the government touches gets more expensive. Let me repeat this. Anything the government touches gets more expensive. Let me give you more examples. Most recently, Obamacare, right? The Affordable Care Act. Have you noticed that your insurance premiums, if you don't have an employer paying a lot of money for it, if you are the employer, or if you have to get your own policies, you already know this to be true, and you're not getting a bunch of subsidies from the government because you're not making enough money, you realize that these premiums have skyrocketed, right? Skyrocketed. Now, someone might say, "Yeah, but that few percent of people that couldn't get insurance," and it might be you. Hey, at least now we can get insurance again. You're right. It's good that you can get something. But guess what? That's not the reason why the premiums skyrocketed. That's part of the reason. They had to go up just to account for people that were uninsurable before, right? The real reason is because the government has to step in, create a whole bureaucracy, which, by the way, increases our taxes because we've got to have all these government employees overseeing this program, this marketplace that didn't even work for a few months. If you remember, that was a nightmare trying to even go to the marketplace. And then, well, of course, what does it do? It causes the insurance companies to jack up everything too. And so they jack up their rates. Who lost here? It wasn't the government. It was us. We lost because the government stuck their noses in places they don't belong. They don't belong in stupid places like this. Again, that's not the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the right to life and health insurance. No, that's dumb. By the way, life insurance is at least guaranteed. Why don't we have life insurance covered? Oh, that's the next government program. Dumb. Another example, state of Hawaii. I remember back in 2006, I was starting to like really understand this stuff. I remember Hawaii said they're going to put price caps of $4 a gallon on gasoline. Guess what? The government had to go in and make sure they babysat it, causing them to add more taxes at the fuel pump. Guess what? They surpassed the $4 a gallon cap almost immediately. Guys, like if you haven't seen this before, all these extra programs are ridiculous. They don't work. Here's a challenge I'll give you. Go to YouTube. Look like a guy named Milton Friedman, right? Milton Friedman. Look him up, especially when he went on Donahue. If you guys remember the old talk show host Donahue, this kind of dates me a little bit because I remember sitting there watching it with adults and it was boring. But anyways, this one's pretty interesting. Milton Friedman, he was on Donahue. He started talking about it. Donahue's very outspoken. Like we was in favor of these government programs of socialism. While Milton Friedman's saying we got to cut at least half of these different departments. Cut them, get rid of them, lower the taxes, let the people prosper. By the way, I loved, not this last time, but, well, I guess it was the previous election when they were talking about having the flat tax rate. Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember that. The guy that was the owner of the pizza place, I'm trying to remember his name offhand now, but he actually proposed a 9% flat tax. I am totally in favor of that, even more so than what the Trump tax plan did. Because if you noticed, your tax rates go higher as you go up in income. What does that incentivize you to do? Not make more money, does it? Because if you're like, oh, if I make more money, and I hear it from clients all the time, well, if I make more money, then I'm gonna get taxed more. Not to mention, you get to keep more too, right? But they're like, oh, but that bumps me in another tax bracket. And then all that money I make, now it's at 34% or 36% tax or whatever it might be. And right now it's low. Well, yeah, that's not much of an incentive. But if we kept the tax flat, right? If it were, say it was even 12%, let's say it's 12% for everybody. Everybody had to pay 12% to taxes. Let's just say that was the number, right? Guess what? Would you care about making more money? No. The fact is you'd be incentivized to want to make more because you get to keep more. Now, if they reduced it as you went higher, see, that's the thing, bad politics, because you're reducing on the rich makes it look evil. So they got to tax the rich more to make people feel good. But the truth is that if you actually incentivize lowering taxes and you made more money, you would be shooting for making more money. And here's the thing, as you prosper and you make more money, you still end up paying more taxes than people that don't make money. So as your incentive to make more money, you still end up paying more taxes, even if you're in a lower bracket as you go up. So if it's flat tax, same thing. You still have an incentive. You're still going to make more money. That's not going to repulse you anymore. You want to keep making more because the taxes won't go up on you. Now, I'm not running for office. I know it's a brilliant idea, but that's why the idea could work. It's based on self-interest, human behavior, just human basic psychology. Instead of going for the psychology of the people that are saying, hey, it's not fair the rich make more money. Hey, the rich are the ones paying all your freaking taxes, right? I'm paying way more taxes than all you guys are. Okay, I can't say all of you. Some of you are probably paying more taxes. Some of you are unnecessarily paying more taxes than you should be. But I'm paying a lot more taxes than most of the country right now. And that's even with all my write-offs and benefits and everything else. But guys, that's the thing, is that when government steps in, they try to control stuff and they try to do these little programs and welfare programs instead of letting people choose for themselves. By the way, people, I know I give more than 10% of my income away to charities. I don't mind doing that. I actually like doing that. Don't force me to do it. If the government has to force you by the muzzle of a gun, right, to say, listen, you need to pay this or else, that's it. By the way, another great book, another great resource is a book by a guy named Ezra Taft Benson. He was actually the Department of Agriculture head back in I think it was Eisenhower days. He has a book very tiny book called The Proper Role of Government. That one changed my perspective big time. He said, hey, say you were a particular person, you didn't have money, you were hurting for money. You go to your neighbor and you ask them, hey, can you give me money? Now, asking for it's one thing, right? Asking for free will. But if you had to say, I'm coming over with a shotgun and I need you to give my money. By the way, in the book, The Law by Frederick Bastiat, Frederick actually says that's called legal plunder, right? Legal plunder. You're legally robbing people saying, nope, I'm going to force you. Now you might say the IRS won't kill you. They don't throw you in debtor's prison. No, but what if you refuse to pay taxes and you just kept refusing? And then they say, hey, you know what? We need to do something. And you're like, I'm going to completely rebel. I'm going to try to flee the country. And they try to capture you, right? Or whatever it might be. They're still going to try to imprison you if you try to get away with it at some point. And if you try to refuse imprisonment or refuse arrest, guess what? You will get killed. There will be a gun in your face. That's what I mean by that. You're trying to say, like, I really want you to do it. No, actually, I'm requiring you to do it. Give me that money. If you can't feel in good conscience, go to your neighbor and do that. That's not the right thing. By the way, now, what if you went to that neighbor and said, listen, hey, we need to fix our roads here. Hey, can you pitch in and put in some money here? In fact, we need everybody to pitch in and put some money in because this is all our road. Would you feel as guilty about that? No. If you're like, hey, I need to make sure I have health insurance. Give me the money now. Guys, that's not it. That's not how you have a free and prosperous society. A free and prosperous society requires free will. And yes, it requires government to protect the rights, to make sure that nobody crosses the boundary where they're stealing from you, lying, hurting you, trying to kill you, all those other things, right? That shouldn't happen. We need a society that allows us to be free, to prosper according to the desires we have. And when a people wants to prosper and continue to grow and prosper, then everybody does. By the way, last example, France. Talking about governments getting in the way. France is a big one. Everybody talks about socialism is amazing. Well, France, what happens if you have more than 50 employees, 50 or more employees, actually, what happens is you have to start getting all these extra benefits like coming out of your pocket. So what do French companies do? They stop at 49. They refuse to employ more. By the way, Europe has a horrible unemployment rate, especially for those coming out of college, right? And they're supposed to have free equality for all. But here's the thing, at 49, they have to stop. Now, if they have to keep growing, what do? They go open up in Germany instead. They say, I'm going to go for Germany because at least I won't have to pay all these extra benefits. Guys, it's all about self-interest. Again, you can have good self-interest. There's greed out there. I don't doubt that. And I believe that people should be protected from people that are doing bad things. Hey, I think the financial advising world should, even though it's being regulated, I think it should have some sort of regulations or at least some things there. Maybe it's overly regulated. Maybe it's not. I mean, that's debatable. But the truth is that even those that are unaligned with those regulations still doesn't stop them from being a jerk or not doing the right thing for you, right? So that's the thing. It's like governments are necessary, but we don't need humongous governments protecting and trying to dictate our entire lives. That's not the way that we were raised to be, a bunch of pansies, a bunch of wimps that can't take care of ourselves, that we have to go to the government to do it. And by the way, I've used welfare before. I've had help before. I've had my church help me before. When I went through the recession before, I had to get help, guys. But that was voluntary money. That wasn't like, again, forcing people to give it. By the way, I've more than paid back that money since in different charities and offerings to help pay that back, the money that they helped me with. That's the thing, guys, is that, I love the movie Cinderella Man. I love that he actually went into the Social Security office and paid the money back. I'm not saying you have to do that, guys. But I like that mental attitude that, hey, this is not my money. I need to prosper as well. I need to prosper off of my own genius, my own accord. And that, guys, that's where you have a free and prosperous and happy society. So anyways, I challenge you to really think of that and consider that as you're moving to the election booths then in the coming weeks here, because we do not want people that are trying to build a bigger government to babysit us and pamper us like a bunch of little whiny babies. We need to be grown-ups. We need to adult ourselves. We need to be real prosperous people, because there's no hope of prosperity if we don't believe in that first. So guys, I challenge you to do that. Live that example to become free yourself. Make it a wonderful day and a prosperous week. We'll see you.